Welcome back to Work Woman. I'm excited to hang out with you because this is a juicy topic. It is an important topic. And if you do not know how to handle this one question, it could be the difference between you having and keeping an engaged team member and you losing them. What do I do in order to get a raise and or a promotion? Now, sometimes people just want to be promoted. That's pretty rare, where someone's just like, oh, I just want a promotion for promotion's sake, but I don't want any pay associated with it. The pay piece, like I think most people would be fine with giving promotions. The pay is where it gets tricky. And what I know from dealing with so many team members and then also helping guide and advise thousands of business owners across the world is they often don't really feel prepared for this very specific question. What do I do in order to get a raise? Or sometimes worse yet, it's more on the demanding side of I've been here for X amount of time and I deserve a raise. So let's just dive on in. At Cardone Ventures, I've made it very clear to people on the front end of working with us what expectations look like for promotions. There's the occasional team member who, out of the blue, will ask for a promotion 3 months in, but that is very, very rare because I'm crystal clear when they come on board that, hey, it normally takes somebody 6 months in order to really understand everything that we're doing here, to really be comfortable in their role, to really add value in their role. And so once you're in for 6 months, then it's probably going to take another 3 to 6, maybe even 12 months for you to get good at that role, to become so great at that role that it would deserve and it would be warranted that you would have this promotion or get a raise. And so we're sharing this with people very early on so that we don't always have to have these conversations. Because quite honestly, when you're in the middle of a day, like today, I had back to back to back meetings, just like you, just like starting from morning until the end of the day, you're just in meetings with people, figuring out what to do next, answering questions, fighting fires, etc. So in the middle of those meetings, when someone just like drops this bomb on you, that's what it feels like. I know you can relate. Someone just drops this bomb on you that you think is like maybe doing a good to average job, that they are wanting and in some cases demanding a promotion. It can be jarring. It can be off-putting, especially when you're maybe not even making as much as they are. Like that's a very real thing for a lot of business owners. And so how do you get in front of this conversation around what promotion and pay increases look like in your organization? My first piece of advice would be don't react. Like this is not the time to, even though you are startled, even though you didn't see that coming, you didn't expect it, you think that they're average, you're maybe even thinking of putting them on a performance improvement plan, and then they start telling you that they think that they deserve a promotion, don't react. It's the worst thing that you could do because you likely just need to regroup and put a plan in place. So when this conversation comes up, I would just ask a bunch of questions. So I'm not giving any sort of answer in that moment. And I would train your team to do the exact same thing. It's not like somebody comes in my office and says, I want a promotion, and I'm expected in that moment to just give them a promotion. Like you can create time, you can create a space for you to really figure out, okay, what would be required for this person to get a promotion? It's never coming from the standpoint that you're trying to figure out how not to pay them. That would be my second piece of advice. Do not come at it from saying, I need to figure out how not to pay this person. I need to figure out how not to give this person a promotion. Come at it from what would this person have to do both in their existing role with their existing responsibilities and then also potentially taking on new responsibilities or learning a new skill, learning something that would be valuable that would create the confidence in you to have them earn a promotion. So when you come at it from those angles, all of a sudden you can get creative. Now, I just taught this last weekend my People Essentials workshop. This is the workbook for the workshop. And one of the things that people just sleep on is my one-on-one form. People freaking sleep on this. I was talking to my trainer this morning and my trainer asked me, do you ever find that you have clients who are super on board. They're all bought in. They're doing everything for the first 3 months, and then they just trail off. And I laughed. And I said, quite honestly, I feel like that's 95% of clients. It blows me away how you can give somebody the answer to something and they can still just choose not to do it and pretend in some cases like they never even heard you say it. Blows my mind. But then it had me thinking, well, his role as a personal trainer, think of how many times he's told me to eat right, to not have sorbet. That's been my recent thing, raspberry sorbet. To not have sorbet at night, to not skip breakfast. How many times he had to tell me that? Like a million times. And yet I still don't do it. But when I finally have started doing it, oh my gosh, all these results. And now I'm so upset that he didn't tell me earlier. And he's like, listen, Chica, I did tell you this earlier, and why are you being so ridiculous? You've known that you needed to do this for a very long time. So that is the case for me, and that is how I feel about this one-on-one form. This is the craziest thing. Why can I not find? Oh, there it is. Of course, as I flip through it now, I can find the one-on-one form. This one-on-one form, I don't just make this shit up for the purpose of being like, oh, you should do one-on-ones. They're so important. It's really good to do one-on-ones. Like, no, I do one-on-ones in order to set myself up for conversations like this because I want everybody in the environment to know what they need to do to get a raise. I don't like surprises. I don't like people just randomly coming up to me and asking me, "Hey Natalie, what's it going to take?" No, you already know what it's going to take because you've been having this communication every other week with your manager or even me. So there's no lack of clarity about the areas that you need to develop, the metrics that you need to hit, and until you do those things, there's no conversation about what a promotion sounds like. There's zero conversation that we were having about this. So I'm going to refresh you, not on the whole one-on-one template, but on the one-on-one templates that are the components of it that are specifically created to address this conversation around I want to raise. So the first one, metrics. In your one-on-one form, if your team members are updating you on their metrics every other week, you can tell, are they hitting them? Are they below them? Or are they exceeding them? If they are doing anything besides hitting, or if they're doing anything besides exceeding the expectations, there is zero conversation that we're going to have about a promotion. Because if you're just meeting what's expected, why am I going to pay you more for doing what is expected of you in that role? That to a team member sounds very logical. So I always put this back on the business owner. How are you making their metrics so clear to them so that they know what they're being measured on, so they feel confidence in asking for a promotion, or they feel confidence in continuing to work on those things until they have clarified that they've exceeded those expectations. So this metrics piece on this one-on-one form, that's the whole purpose. The whole purpose is, hey, how am I doing my role? If I'm not doing great, let's fix that. If I'm doing okay, all right, that's great, but I thought you wanted to make more money and I thought you wanted all these other responsibilities. In order to have those opportunities, you need to be able to exceed your metrics, exceed expectations. And so this metrics piece is like, that's why it's one of the first things on this one-on-one form. After the action's taken, it's like, where are we at with your metrics? If you're not where you're supposed to be with your metrics, we're not having this conversation about promotion. And if you don't provide this metrics clarity for your team members, you're just going to constantly find yourself living in la la land with all of your team members who think that, oh, they're doing such a great job, and you're thinking they're not doing a great job. What makes you think that they're not doing a great job? If they don't have metrics, then they don't know that they're not doing a great job either. I even can look at that with myself. When I had experience recently where I moved forward with it was very amicable, but a team member in the organization decided to part ways. And I kind of reflected back to myself and thought, man, what could I have done in order to make this situation not what it is? And the first place that I went is this metrics piece. Like, if I would have gotten metrics tighter, more clear, and well defined much earlier, I don't know that we would be in this situation. So Natalie has to take some level of accountability for not doing that better. And I urge you, any team member you're frustrated with, I can think of a handful of team members that I'm frustrated with at any given point in time. When I really look at, okay, their metrics that I've laid out for them and where they're reporting that they're at? Do the metrics indicate the same feeling that I have that they're underperforming? And if they don't, and if they feel like they are performing, the blame's kind of on you at that point. But the good news is you can fix that. Super easy to fix. And luckily, you'll be able to do it in the next one-on-one where you're like, hey, these metrics aren't working out. We're going to implement these new ones because it's important. Okay, next up, updates and ideas. That's not important to this. The development plan. Inside your one-on-one, the development plan, inside the one-on-one form, the development plan should be laying out the path for what the team member needs to be developing at any given point in time. So if you haven't done the development plan is tied to the annual performance review of that team member. So for those of you who have not read my book, Teamwork, which if you haven't, you should, and you can get your copy at cardoneventures.com/teamwork. That's cardoneventures.com/teamwork. I talk about this process of an annual performance review. So if you go through a review, you review the team member, the employee reviews themselves, and then you come up with, okay, here are the gaps. These are the things that are working well, but here are the areas that need improvement. And what's our plan to address these areas? Well, when you're having that conversation, you put those items down, then you use your one-on-ones for that year to get updates on how that person is adding skill sets, adding knowledge, creating content, or reviewing courses or going to events in order for them to be able to develop in the areas that you have specifically targeted. If you're not having that conversation with your team member, there's no development plan, there's no annual performance review. Of course, the team member is going to be sitting there thinking, well, when is the time that we do get to talk about what my performance looks like? And if you haven't given any feedback, are you sensing a theme with this? Devoid of you giving any sort of feedback, of course they're going to think that their performance and the way that they show up each and every day deserves or is warranted to get paid more or to get some sort of promotion. So I know this episode is not one that you're going to like because in most cases, it's actually on the leader for not creating the clarity, and it's very rarely on the team member. Now, I mean, I was one time in a performance improvement plan with somebody, and that was the time in which the team member decided to ask me about getting a pay raise. I was like, this might not be the time. This might not be the ideal scene, as next step with us is termination for you to ask about a pay raise. So there are instances where team members just totally have no clue about timing and they don't understand why that wouldn't be just optimal for them to not bring up in that moment. So there are those cases, but honestly, 9 times out of 10 for the businesses that I've coached and the businesses that I've worked in, it really is the leader who hasn't created this clear path to, okay, here's the date and time in which a promotion would be available to you based on these very, very specific things that you need to be doing. There's a funny thing about targets, and targets can come in the form of these development plans. They can come in the form of metrics. Once you put a target in front of somebody, then the pressure is on them. You're not trying to just create targets for target's sake and overshoot something that a team member really couldn't accomplish in a certain time frame, but saying and being really honest, hey, I didn't know that you were interested in a promotion, and in that case, this is the process we need to go through in order to assess your performance. And when I look at your performance, you're at, let's say, a 70%. And for you to get a promotion, I need to at least see you at a 95% in these 4 areas. You will be amazed at once somebody is so crystal clear and locked into that 95%, how quickly their performance will match what you're asking. But again, devoid of the metric, how are they supposed to know? Okay, what else on this? My last piece on how to navigate the challenging conversation of the pay raise. Well, actually, there's not a last piece. There's 2 pieces. Your team members could ask for a pay raise and very much warrant it because they've added skill sets that to themselves that are valuable, and yet your business hasn't grown. So you don't want to pay them more. But if they went out into the open market and tried to look for a job, they might be able to go find a job somewhere, making them in the short run have access to a promotion where in your environment they haven't been able to do that. That does happen. It's not as frequent, but you could have a handful of high performers on your team who really have gained such knowledge and are so much more valuable today than they were when they walked in with you. And so what would cause somebody to stay with you once you are aware that, oh, this skill gap, like this, their skill based on or compared to what we're paying, there is a gap there, but we can't afford at this point to pay more. At that moment, your best shot is sharing with them the vision of where the organization is going and pointing them to other people in your environment who have been successful working with you and asking for some sort of patience with them, but also diverting their attention. Because when you think about it, yes, they might have added a skill set to themselves in marketing or in finance or in operations. And in another organization, that skill could be better paid. However, if they really want a real shot at significant income increases, not just a promotion here or there, they need to learn how to sell. They really do. And a lot of team members hate me for saying this, but as soon as somebody learns how to sell and is actually able to help you as the business owner solve your greatest problem, which is lack of customers, lack of new revenue, all of a sudden they are helping contribute to the problem that you have, which is you have a great team member, but not enough revenue to pay that team member more. So now they're directly helping with revenue. And again, I get so much pushback on this. I got, really crucified on TikTok for talking about this, saying, hey, your team members should be promoting your business on social media, on their social medias. And everybody on TikTok was just like, this is crossing boundaries. You can't force your team members to do this. What about work-life balance? And like, listen, you dumb shits. I didn't say that exactly, but this is what I was thinking. If they're not willing to promote your organization and they're not willing to help you drive revenue and bring more customers to the business that they are working inside, to the business that their financial future at this moment is dependent upon, it would be dumb not to promote that business. It would be dumb not to bring customers to that business. It would be dumb to not learn that skill set. So sure, you can make it sound like, oh, this is such an invasion of someone's privacy and personal accounts. It's really not. It's really somebody learning skills that are so valuable to them and that would demonstrate their true value to that organization, especially if you're a small business. If you have less than 25 employees, your team members promoting your business to your community is game changing for your revenue growth. And yet no one wants to ask their team members to do this, and yet the team member is asking for a promotion. Again, the team member could go and work for another organization if their skill set really has increased and it's much more marketable than it was prior to joining with you. But why not, if they're that great and they were able to gain that skill set, it's likely that they're a high performer. So why not paint this bigger vision for them where, hey, right now we can't do this, but as we grow over the next 18 to 24 months, there is leadership opportunities available to you. There is potential partnership opportunities available to you. Stay in the game, learn this skill set, help us grow the revenue. And that conversation is likely going to be much more interesting to them long term, where they have a real opportunity in front of them versus just a position increase and a base increase, which sounds so silly and trivial in comparison with what it could be through working with your organization. Okay, my last piece, which was my original last piece, but now it's the last piece, is the final way that I combat this so that it isn't just constantly coming up all the time is through sharing with our team members our employee maturity model. And this is something that I dive deep into in the 10X 360, but I just want to draw your attention to one page of it. Give me a second. I'm also going to take a drink of water. It's dry here in Arizona. Okay. In our employee maturity model, not sure if you can see this. You probably can't. That's okay. It's a visual of how somebody gets paid more at these individual positions. So you get paid more as a manager than you do as an associate. You get paid more as a vice president than you do as a director. You get paid more as a C-suite than you do as a executive vice president. So all of these different pay scales are given to our brand new team members to let them know, hey, upward mobility is very much available here. It's something that we want in this organization. It's something that we can point you to for other people who have been successful. And it's going to be important for you as you grow here to know what upward mobility looks like so that you can create a development plan that is in alignment with what your financial goals are. Once all of these things come together, the one-on-ones, the personal, professional, financial goals, the metrics, the development plan, this conversation of somebody getting a pay raise, like they will have developed themselves so much that the business will be ready to be able to do that for them. And this is how we've grown Cardone Ventures the way that we have. I have team members who I'm so excited to give promotions to because it is so clear that through the revenue that they've generated in non-sales roles, through the way that they step up, through the books that they've been reading, everything that they've been doing through their own development has created value. And then we want to reward them with the value creation because now they're able to take on bigger leadership opportunities inside our business. But if you just have one of these pieces, it's just the one-on-ones, but you don't have a development plan, the one-on-one is going to fall flat because it's just going to feel like this transactional thing and there isn't this bigger picture that they're developing towards. So if you don't have some of these things, if you don't have an employee maturity model, if you don't have clarity on metrics, if you don't have clarity on what your performance review process should be, People Essentials is for you. You should absolutely come to my next People Essentials. You can go to cardoneventures.com/people to get connected with our next event. They are amazing. Seriously amazing. My favorite event that we get to do. Would love to have you there. And with that, next time you have a team member say to you, I want a raise. I feel confident that you are much more equipped to handle that conversation. And remember, at the end of the day, you're a human being who doesn't always know how to perfectly respond to things like this. But the more structure that you have in place, the more confidence that you're going to have in handling these situations. And all of a sudden, we'll be like, okay, great, that's awesome. Let's talk through where you're at with your metrics, where you're at with your development plan, where you're in the EMM, what your personal, professional, and financial goals are, so that we can create a roadmap for you to be successful inside this organization. It is that easy. Well, this concludes Workwoman. I would absolutely love if you left a review on wherever site, platform, listening place you are currently listening to this episode. If it's YouTube, if it's Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you are, it would mean the world to me if you left a review and also shared this with any leader or business owner who is currently struggling with team members who are looking for a raise and they just need a little bit of guidance and advice as to how to handle that situation. I can hardly wait to talk to you next time.